Hey there, Feud fans. We are talking about Feud, Bette and Joan, Season 1, Episode 2, The Other Woman. Stay tuned.
It was an itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini that she wore for the first time today.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to VHL's Feud, Bette and Joan Aftershow. We are talking about Season 1, Episode 2, The Other Woman. Dun, 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 dun.
And there was a lot of other women. In
There were a lot of other women.
It is like just cheat, scam, scam, scam.
I am your host, Elena Jordan. You can find me on Twitter at Elena Jordan and on Instagram at That Elena Jordan Girl. And today I am joined by an entire panel of amazing other women. In a good way, not in a bad way.
Right. But a lot of other women. I'm joined by a lot of other women. Right.
Lisa, would you like to introduce that?
Hey guys, I'm Lisa Mason Lee, and you can follow me everywhere at Lisa Mason Lee.
Hey guys, I'm Nakia Monet, and you can follow me on all social media at Kiki Boom Boom.
And my name is Raquel Harris. You can find me on all social media at Raquel Harris TV.
So, initial reactions to this episode.
Yowzas.
Yeah, it was just
Petty,
it was,
jealous.
Yeah, envy, spiteful.
Manipulation.
Right.
We love it. What can we say?
Right. It definitely. I mean, I just like the quotes in this episode.
Every line
Yeah.
was an amazing quote. I could see every single one of these being on a poster.
Yeah, like Jack, he had the best. Like when he was like, "Yeah, women when they get older they get sour."
He's
I was
like, good whiskey, when it gets old, it gets good. But broads, when they get old, they get sour.
I was
It's one of my
like,
favorite quotes.
damn, I know. I was like,
Dang.
oh, Jack is just, he just spits it out, and I'm like, I honestly love seeing him, even though he's like an awful person. But it's just when he comes on, I just know I'm gonna be entertained by him because he's just he just doesn't care.
As a character, he's amazing to watch.
Yeah.
As
so good.
Poor Bette and Joan having to deal
I
with his
know.
behind-the-scenes shenanigans, not even knowing what he's up to.
Right, and Bob.
Rough. Everybody.
I hate that because I love Bob. And
It's a whole triangle of manipulation. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's safe.
So
that's
shady.
Hollywood.
Hollywood.
So shady. Literally, like you said, was like a triangle of manipulation. Like this one was manipulating Hedda, was manipulating Bob, and then Jack was manipulating
Bob too.
Bob, and then
Right.
the girls, but then the girls manipulated with each other,
And then
the actors
Howard
got kicked off.
Yeah.
And I
so
love that the
much.
theme for this episode was basically spelled out twice. We hear two different people say, "Mine is the only opinion that matters." And we're like, everybody feels that.
Right.
Start off the episode with Joan kind of throwing her weight around because poor little neighbor girl.
She said the wrong thing. She said my grandmother. She didn't even say my
My mom,
mother.
yeah.
She said my grandmother has loved you since she was a kid. And Joan Crawford was not feeling that.
No.
Because she already feels old. So you get this pretty little cute blonde that comes on set and
Flirting with the crew.
and flirting with the
Idiot.
crew, and Bob's known to like his little blondes and to sleep with his little blonde lead. So Joan looked at it like, oh hell no! I already have to compete with Bette. There's no way I'm
Yeah.
competing with this cute little girl on
For
set.
sure.
We already
for
saw,
sure.
last week the first episode was the other blonde, Marilyn Monroe. She's like, I will not have this.
Yeah.
At the beginning of every
Something
episode,
about-
she's like, get out of here.
Yeah, something about blondes.
Something about these blondes.
Yeah, I think that was the era though too. Blonde was like the
bombshell
end. Yeah,
thing.
because
Well,
I mean,
after Psycho, too, when everyone was saying, like, this is
Right.
horror, and that was,
Right.
like, the whole big thing
Right.
was Janet Leigh,
For
and, like,
sure.
he killed her because she was blonde.
yeah, and even a deeper issue too. I mean, that was like perceived as the pure, like innocent, like oh she's blonde, she's cute, and even Marilyn Monroe, she's not a natural blonde, but she
No.
she
no.
changed her hair over because that was the image that was being portrayed on film. So
Yeah.
They say blondes have more fun, so.
Well, you
Alana.
know. Do they?
I don't know. I feel like fun is what you make it, isn't it?
Hey.
yeah, I'm like I mean I have fun.
I'm a
I
blonde.
feel like poor
occasionally
Neighbor Girl
in
didn't
time.
have a lot of fun because she got her ass
Right, she got-
booted right out the door. So.
right.
She was on
Maybe
set
in
for
that
2
case,
minutes.
blondes
2
did not
minutes.
have
Right.
more fun. It's funny though because there's actually an awesome documentary that you can watch on YouTube that is called Feud. You know, Bette and Joan. That it was made in 2000. But Arlene Dahl was an actress who was interviewed, and she was talking about a real life situation where she met Joan Crawford and said, "You're my mother's favorite actress." And
Horrible.
Joan just started shooting daggers at her. And so then she's at a dinner party. Later on in the party, Joan goes to toast everybody and accidentally spills her red wine down this girl's white satin dress.
Oh, Joan, so petty.
I just,
but I love it.
But I love that this show just pulls these stories that you're like, oh, they definitely,
I just
heard
feel
about
like, how would this happen in 2017? Like, I feel like no one is going for that. Like, I know if someone did that to me, it would be like, oh, okay, so I guess this is what is ass whooping is what you're wanting. Like, that's really. I mean, I'm thinking to
But
myself.
the neighbor girl doesn't know.
Well, no, the neighbor girl doesn't know. But I mean, I feel like she had to kind of like the way that Joan looked at her afterwards, like as she was signing and looking, just staring at her. I'm like, girl, no, you knew, because then she looked around as she was walking out, and she was just like, damn, like I screwed up. But I mean, at the same time, I just feel like Joan and Betty would have to have their ass handed to them in 2017 because I feel like now, you know, even just with our generation, we're very like in your face, like, no, you're not going to treat me any type of way. And back then, I mean, I feel like, and what another great quote was, you know, I feel like it was another interview with Joan Blodwell, and they were talking about, you know, yeah, please correct me because I could not. No, seriously, every time I see her name, I'm like, how do you say her name? But no, when she was talking about like how women, they catfight because that was the era of that time, and she was like, we don't get zip, we didn't have great characters then, and we don't have them now, and whenever we're trying to get into a fight, we don't fight the men, we fight one another.
Yes.
So I think that's, and I feel like that still sticks true to today, but it sucks because I feel like Betty and Joan wouldn't have had their issues as big as they did if they just came together, which they kind of did in this episode. So I was like, oh, great. And then...
But that manipulation, as Jack says, pitting them against each other, it's going to make them great, which it kind of sucks that they did that because, you know, even when Betty, when she was talking to Bob, she's like, you know, maybe I'll invite her to dinner because I don't know why she makes me so angry.
Right.
Maybe we can talk this out. And it sucks because these, especially the men, Hedda was definitely number one. But
she's
these
messy
men
boots.
are pitting these women together just so they can have a great movie, which is an amazing movie. And when you see their chemistry on screen, you can tell that they hate each other. But it sucks that they had to manipulate these two women just to get to that.
It's kind of absurd that we see, you know, point blank when Bob is even kind of rooting for them when he's saying, you know, they're watching the dailies, he's watching with Jack, and Jack flat out says, oh, this is great, you're pitting them against each other, keep doing it because this is reading well on screen. He's like, well, couldn't that just be the acting?
Okay, and that's what I'm thinking too.
They're
Like
legends.
like acting.
And they're like, nah.
He's like, no, they're great, but we want to control them. We want. I'm like, oh no.
I know, calm down, puppet master. Like, let these actresses be.
They almost got along, and then all the manipulation happened, and then Hedda, she just wanted something for her gossip mag.
Right.
It just sucks that they were pitting them against each other.
Yeah, and another woman is putting them against each other too. Like it sucks.
And we see their power too, like from the very beginning when they come together, is because first Joan is wanting to kick the girl out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's no. You know, like you get a little bit of pushback. I have co-star say, well, she's not a co-star. No, and she never will be. But okay, fine, that's your last burn. Then she goes, she can't just ask Betty point blank, hey, kick this girl out. She's got to, but you have more scenes with her. Get out of here.
It is so,
She manipulates Betty.
Yeah, and it's crazy how quickly she thinks of her plan. That's the crazy thing. Like, even no matter what happens, like, everything's very reactionary. She just says, okay, well, it's raining outside. I'm going to make sure someone has an umbrella to carry me there. Like, she thinks so quickly on her feet, and it's crazy how, like, the master plans that she just comes together with so fast is amazing to me. And then just to think that actually happened in real life is so bizarre.
What I love is that they played to everyone's insecurities.
Yeah.
Where Joan did that to Betty because she knew that would get a rise out of her, and then Hedda does that to Bob when they're having the dinner, and she's like, "Really, Bob? Because you're never gonna be like this director. How are you gonna pay your bills? Give me some gossip." And she plays to his insecurities, knowing that he needs this movie, and knowing that he's gonna give her a piece of gossip. So everyone was just playing everyone's little insecurities and digging at them at this episode.
It's like, where do you have time to rehearse your lines? Like, there's so much energy being put into the mess that it's like, how do you...
There's so much drama off screen. You're like, how do you even have time for the drama on camera?
Right, and your relationship.
We even see people busting in the middle of scenes. It's kind of like, calm down, ladies.
But I love the headline, though, that Bob gives Hedda. It's something like, Joan's pointy breasts might chip Betty's too.
Yeah!
He goes straight for her boobs. I'm like, really? And then I love how Joan comes in and she accuses Betty. Betty's like, I didn't say it, but come on, we know that you've been patting your
She
bra.
said, Lucille, you've been patting your bras for
love when
years.
she calls her Lucille.
I love
Yeah, that's like, and it's like the joke that just never ends, and she knows she always has that one up on her, which is so funny because I love
she does
Lucille.
that.
Yeah, it's so
She's like,
funny.
Lucille, and Joan dies like every second.
Yes.
Like, just respect me and call me Joan. Don't call me Lucille. And Betty, my favorite thing is when the reporter comes to Betty Davis and she's like, "What's your name?" And she tells her name. She's like, "F off." Like,
Yeah, Sylvia. She was
Sylvia.
like, Sylvia. Well, she's like, "What's your name?" Sylvia. Fuck off, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, geez.
There's just two
Amazing.
queen bees, and like Bob said,
I can
Bob's like,
see
they're
that
controlling
now.
me and they're running the show, and I can see
Yeah.
it now. They're just, and that's what makes me respect Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, because these women did not play.
No.
Like, even when Joan Crawford wanted the deal, and she goes to, when she was at MGM, and she's like, "Give me this part or I'm walking."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
you better get ready to walk."
Right. It's like,
Yeah.
Queen bees.
It's like Robert gets one up on them, and then they come back and manipulate him. Whether
Yeah.
it's using him to, he's cheating on his wife, his marriage is in turmoil, calling him at midnight.
That is ridiculous.
I know, and I liked her
Disrespectful.
quote too when she was like, "Oh, is it one of the kids?" And then she says, "It's one of yours."
One of yours.
I'm like, it's like literally this episode.
Everything.
Yeah, this episode was full of just amazing.
They should have
quotes.
just called this "Get Some Ice"
Right,
because it just burns left and right. You're
Yes.
like, oh man, I couldn't even
So
recover
much-
from the last one before the next scene came in.
So much pettiness, and then I don't know if you guys know this, but even though the little, I kept calling Cupcake because that's what Betty called her, little Cupcake was fired. In the end, Betty's daughter BD ends up playing the neighbor girl. So I know that's probably like a prediction, but I can't wait to see how they're going to play that out and how her daughter becomes the neighbor girl. So, but just imagine, I can just imagine like Betty coming in and telling Bob, not asking, telling Bob, "You're gonna give my daughter this role." Like, I don't know if that happens.
yeah.
To see it, like, give it to BD. Like, no one
Definitely.
I
cares.
thought that was what was happening though, because when she came in and she had the same outfit more or less, I was like, okay, I'm assuming this is gonna happen.
Could be. They didn't say it yet on the
Right,
episode.
right.
But it could be.
I mean, which sucks because then we see that Betty's even jealous of her own daughter, and that's
The
so.
whole thing is just
is.
ridiculous.
It's so unfortunate, and like I mean, not to get into it too soon. I don't know if you want to jump to that or not.
Well,
but
let's start first
Yeah.
going way back. Joan.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure.
I love it. I mean, everything just ties together really well.
It
So it's kind of
does.
hard to
Yeah.
just like
Right,
stay
just the-
chronological.
yeah.
It's like everything just
It's like
so perfectly written
right.
that everything is. Oh, it's amazing. And I love too that they bring in. We have Joan Blundell. We get her point of view, her talking about it, which is how we're able to incorporate Kathy Bates and her amazing acting.
I know she's just amazing.
Every time she's on camera, I'm like, okay.
I know.
Okay.
And she always like randomly just comes out of nowhere in so many different variations of movies, and I just love that.
I know you were saying you love quotes, but I love the quote that she says, because the two ladies are saying, it wouldn't happen now in the 70s, and Kathy Bates is like, no, one thing women do, we eat our own.
Yeah.
And they're cornered.
And they're cornered, we eat
Yes.
our own, and then I think she said something like, we pick the bones with our teeth.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite quotes from Kathy Bates.
Yeah, and that's
Now,
What do you guys think about that on a personal level?
I feel like I'm not that way. If I see a woman, period, because I know it's difficult for females in every aspect of whatever industry that you're trying to get into. So if I see someone that's trying to, what sucks is I feel like on a grand scale, you really can't trust anyone, and that's just really on the Hollywood tip. You never know what someone's like, what they're trying to get out of you, or how they're trying to like have you benefit them. So I feel like and I'm from the Midwest, so coming here, like I went to school in Chicago, so I'm Midwestern. Like, hey, how are you? What's
Midwest
going on?
as well. Indiana.
Hey, Midwest. The Midwest girls, the best girls. But anyway, no shade, no shade
all
to
good.
anybody. Right, East Coast.
I'm from New York, so we're just all around rough. Like, the New Yorkers tell you what it is. We tell you
Betty.
what's going on. That's why I think I love Betty Davis so much, because as a not even New Yorkers, just East Coasters in general, we will tell you what it is. If we don't like you, we don't like it. We'll work together, but I don't like what you're doing.
See, we're like the Midwest girls are like super sweet. Like, oh hey, how you doing? Like, what's going on? Like, and I literally told you that when we had wrote together back home, and I was like, it's nice because it's humbling, because Midwesterns are like, yeah, how are you doing? Like, I want to help you. Like, is everything okay? And then when I moved to Chicago, a bigger city, everyone's like, don't talk to me. They don't even say excuse me. Like, hello. Like,
They're probably cold. That's
Yeah.
I'm from the South,
But even
and I feel like the
they
South
wanna
and
get
the
warm.
Midwest are very similar. Like, you come out
Yeah.
here and you're
Right.
like, hey, y'all,
I'm
what's
happy.
up, everybody? And they're like,
And the door
who
slams
are
on
you?
your
Who are
face.
you? What do you want?
Right. It's shut up,
I'm like,
Sylvia. or
I
fuck
just
off,
wanted to say hi.
F off.
Fuck off, Sylvia.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
you, Lucille.
And that sucks because I literally my personality kind of shifted, because I was like, well, well, shit, if no one's gonna say hello to me, I'm not gonna say hello anymore. So
You
like,
shouldn't let that.
no, it doesn't. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm gonna play the game if that's the
Right.
case. Like, I don't want anyone to think that I'm too nice, and then you can run
but
over.
you get backed into a corner.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
That's the thing, and that's what I love is we actually get the whole before and after.
Yes.
Joan is kind of when we first see her talking by herself. She's just giving us a little bit of the backstory, but then when Catherine Zeta-Jones' character comes
love
in,
her.
Olivia. Then and Olivia is, we get their kind of banter, their back
Right.
and forth, where she's saying, let's all be the best of friends, and then Joan's like, we are the best of friends until it comes down to it. And then
Exactly.
she's
She's the
one person
realist.
on top.
Olivia just wants it to be happy, and she's like, no, this would never happen. And
But that's the thing is,
Joan's
if
like,
women were the ones who were running the show for each other, then that would be how it is.
Exactly.
It's the
Right.
men who come in and start with
Right.
everything.
No offense,
The head of the
men.
studio.
We're talking about this show.
We're talking about the
right
show,
now. We're not
yeah.
talking about like.
But that's usually what
get out
happens.
of here. Cheers
Right, no,
all
I was
the
about to
time.
say, it is kind of
That's
that.
usually what happens with
Kinda,
women in
yeah.
power. Like, and I think if women realize, like, it's just the old tale that women, we can rule the world. But there
Yeah.
just happens to be sometimes when you're in power that a man or another man comes in and they pit you against each other. And if you're insecure and you don't have that confidence to see
Yes.
what's going on and to rise up above the occasion and be like, these are my sisters. Let's do something. You're going to fall for it.
Exactly.
And you're going to eat your own.
And then we
Yeah.
find out that that's kind of how this whole feud really starts is when Joan really wants to play Marie Curie,
Right.
And she demands MGM, I will play this or I will walk. I said, well, get to walking.
That's my
Yeah,
favorite.
right.
He looked at the script like, well, get to walking. Goodbye.
Yeah,
He's
bye.
like,
Like no hesitation. So she's already been knocked down several pegs.
She's had the
So,
humbling experiences, even though she still, no matter what, just doesn't
She's-
humble herself. It's weird.
Well, it's hard. You're Joan Crawford. It's like, ugh.
Was it insinuated that Joan and Jack had slept together, or was that Betty?
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
And he was
Yeah.
trying to get back at Betty because Betty was his problem child. as
Obviously.
they would
Right.
say.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
he
that's
was
why
using them
he was-
again.
And Joan was taking all of Betty's old movies that she didn't want, and
Right.
which happens.
Mildred
And profiting off of
Mildred
them.
Pierce, she gets the Oscar. Mildred Pierce is an amazing movie.
1945.
Yeah.
Just
Love that movie, and she did an amazing job. So to her, she's like, "Thanks, Betty." But
Right.
Jack knew that. And
Yeah.
Jack was sleeping with Joan, and he knew how to get back to Betty Davis.
Yeah.
So he was Joan Crawford, her arch enemy from 1932,
Yeah.
from selling her man.
Right. Rundown.
Which it's just ridiculous that they're just playing this whole system where it's just these guys sitting back
Crazy.
watching these women
Yeah.
on
The
the
cat
screen.
Yeah, I mean, because to answer your question, no, I'm not that way at all. If I see another person, whether they be a female or a guy, if you're great at what you do, I want you to prosper. I want you to do better. I want you to be as successful as you can be. So I mean, but that's also my own confidence too, because if I know I'm great at my craft, there's no one else that's going to be able to stand next to me, period. So I feel like that's kind of where I feel like back in the day, women kind of didn't have that type of entitlement and that type of confidence within themselves. So it kind of worked against them. And men obviously know how to work with women in the sense of we're kind of, I mean, I don't know how you guys are, but I feel like women are a little bit more emotionally involved than men are. Men are very like, whatever, I don't care about much. But women, I feel like we kind of base what we do, our reactions, off of our emotions.
Right.
And men know that, so they're able to capitalize off of it, and they're able to manipulate it. So I feel like women need to wake up and be like, look, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to push this to the side. And unfortunately, the only tool that we kind of had was our sexuality back then, which they did use to manipulate men in that sense, because it's obviously happening for Bette and Joan.
Yeah, and I think even if you look back then, there weren't like a lot of roles for women because these two women are fighting for the great roles, and the roles that they had were the shop girls, I'm using Betty's quote, and like the hot girls. And, there weren't a lot of roles for these two 50-year-old women. So, of course, they're at each other's throat. And I love when Jack's going out to lunch and Bette Davis is like, who do you have lunch with? Judy Garland. And she's naming all these actors
Right,
from
these
back in the
big-time
day.
actors,
And he's like, no,
yeah.
John Crawford. And that just lets you know that, like, if you look at the men back then, there were so many men in so many roles. Women... And then it goes down to like women of color, and then, like, you know what I'm saying. So there weren't really a lot of roles for these women. So not that it's a good thing, but I can see why they were so catty. But it sucks because they didn't have the confidence to be like, you guys were sisters.
It was the whole there can only be one
There can only be
mentality.
one. It's
Yeah.
like,
It's the same
no.
thing we see in like even today. I mean, like superhero movies with just about everything. There's one girl.
Yeah.
It's like here's a group, and then there's and then
Minaj.
the girl.
Well, back in the day,
For
Yeah.
real, Nicki Minaj, and Remy Ma, you guys could come together on an album and
Exactly.
create something
Yeah.
bomb, but you're not doing
There doesn't
that.
have to just be
Yeah, how much power you both have. Like Bette and Joan, you guys have so much power. You could have executive produced that by yourself, but instead you want to fight for that one role, but you both could have shined. And like, I just... but yeah, I always have to bring in Nicki Minaj and Remy Ma because that's like the most relevant kind of beef or feud right now.
Yeah, which is also one
Yeah,
that you're
sure.
like, okay, now calm down.
Right.
This is at this point unnecessary.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's prolonging longer than what we needed to, and at this point, I mean, no one cares anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of it. It's
Ladies, we're supposed to rule the world together.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're supposed to come together. And
we're doing good.
We're doing
good.
great.
We are,
We're
yeah,
doing
we
good.
are.
And
There's a lot of great shows
I just
on.
think that, you had two queen bees
Yeah.
who had two different personalities and they wanted to be number one. And
In a
unfortunately,
small town,
in
a small market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No social media stars, no reality stars.
No YouTube
Okay.
stars.
Yeah.
Just a
That's a good
handful
point.
of
That was
studios.
Yeah.
thing
You know?
that Joan, because in real life, we saw her in the last episode, the fan painting and all this stuff. But Joan really was all about her fans. She would always sign every autograph. She would never
heard
leave.
that.
Nice.
Yeah, she invited fans to stay at her house. That really did happen.
Yeah,
Not
that's
necessarily putting them to work, but the day that she died, she woke up and made breakfast for Mamacita and one of her fans, and then was not feeling hungry because she was feeling sick. Went back to bed and
She had a heart attack, I heard, right?
yeah.
Ryan Murphy
Joni.
is rumored to have had a relationship with Bette Davis. They were pen pals of some sort, and I meant to look back into this, but we should look into that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
yeah,
That is
there was some
interesting.
kind of correspondence with them.
Ryan.
I would have loved to
Come on. Right.
know Bette Davis.
Oh my gosh.
One of my favorite Bette Davis movies is All About Eve. And and the crazy thing is, and she speaks about it on this episode, she shot that 10 years before, so she was 40. And that's what she said, telling Bob, I was 40 and I didn't want to be that woman. And the movie, I wish there was someone who can tell them, you guys are so beautiful, you're amazing actresses. Because even in Mildred Pierce, even in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Joan Crawford looks amazing. And it
Yeah.
sucks that she was just so vain. And when I looked at what It's All About Eve, and I look at Bette Davis, she's such an amazing actress. And I'm like, I wish someone was able to be like, girl, you are legendary.
Yeah,
There's
but
no
nobody
need for
was
you
telling
to
her that. They
go.
probably all were like, look, this new girl's coming. You need to, step it
Exactly.
up.
Right.
Like it's a constant competition, and I
Yeah.
feel like that. I mean,
Well, they were making so much money off of them too,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they were benefiting off of. I mean, they got Joan Crawford for next to nothing because she
Yeah.
was knocked down at MGM, so she was working for cheap
Yes.
for Warner Brothers. So
Right.
And Jack is making all the money because now he wants to open the movie up bigger and put in 400 theaters now.
400, which is
Yeah.
the biggest wide release.
Yes.
I wonder how many theaters they would put movies in normally.
Right, instead
Yeah.
of 400.
maybe half of that. I would.
Yeah, because
Probably
400
so.
was
Less.
huge.
Even,
Yeah.
yeah, less for some.
Yeah.
That's considered a wide release instead of a limited release. And at that time, the movies ran for
Right.
long
yeah,
time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a big deal to have your movie in the theater because you're the only movie in that theater.
Right, and I'm sure it's super expensive because the different equipment or the film that you're working with too. Whereas
Yeah.
now we can just record something back to back.
The turnover's so fast.
Yeah,
But Jackson
yeah.
Warner was making
Hard.
so much money off these two ladies.
And he was capitalizing on knowing that horror is the future.
I
which
swear
was-
Bob told you that, though.
No, I was gonna say sorry. That stuck out to me too because I'm like, wow, if only he saw 2017 because I feel like that's the genre of film that's not that heavily a big of a deal for most people. I feel like drama, comedies, romances are a little bit more. But Jordan Peele is definitely stepping
Oh
up.
my gosh.
Yeah, stepping
was
up the
amazing.
horror.
Killing
Yeah,
it.
because that's not to
100%
go on.
on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Consistently from
Oh,
opening day until
amazing.
now.
And
Has
We're
not
talking
dropped.
about Get Out.
Yes. Yes.
Amazing
Oh,
movie. But it wasn't scary, though.
It was not.
It's like
it
a
wasn't
satire.
scary. Well, no.
But it's a
I wouldn't say-
psychological thriller. It's not a
psychological
slasher.
thriller.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's still horror.
Yeah.
To me, I looked at it because the horror, the monster is racism. So to me, that's why I was like, oh, this isn't like a scary movie, someone trying to kill you. It's just a guy facing racism in America, because that's what the movie's about.
Well, no, it's definitely about cultural appropriation, but I think the underlying, he wanted it to be scary. And if I watched some of his interviews, and he was saying, I wanted to make a film that was accurate of how someone would actually react in a horror film. And I was like, thank God, because that doesn't happen in horror films anymore. But I definitely, he calls it a horror film, and I would say that it is too. But I would say that it's in the sub genre of a psychological thriller.
He did a great promotion job, because if you think about it, he promoted it as a horror film because if he promoted it the way he wanted to, I think no one would have seen that movie.
You think so?
Yes.
That's interesting.
I
Yes,
don't know. I kind
because-
of feel like the difference is with this day and age, we do have the internet and we do have fans that would be.
The reason I say this is because I had conversations with a lot of people, not of color, and a lot of people that I was talking to. I was like, you know what this movie's about? They're like, no, we thought it was just a scary movie. I'm like, it is, but there's something behind it. It's about the monster's racism, and no one understood that. And then I read all these interviews and reviews that people would actually go see the movie, and the points that they were supposed to have a reaction, no one got it. So I think
really clever, though.
he promoted it that way. He
That
said
the
in an
writer did
interview,
it, yeah.
I promoted it this way so that people would actually see it. And
Okay.
it made $100 million at the movie theaters. And people are now going back a second time to watch it because now
To
they're
understand
like,
it fully.
oh, that's what Jordan Peele's talking about. So I think he did a
clever.
great job with
Well, he signed on
marketing.
too. He's going to do
Yes.
a deal and do a bunch more
Yeah.
horror films. So
I'm excited.
It's going to be amazing.
Right.
But I
Shout
like
out
when
Jordan
Jack
Peele.
said that because I'm like, Jack, I swore Bob told you this in your office.
I know, right?
And he had
Yeah.
a whole rundown. He told you horror was going to be the way, and you
and
didn't want
then
to
now
see it.
Jack is like, let me educate you, Bob.
Right.
Let
It
me
was-
let you know what's
Yeah.
up.
It
Which we
was-
see this whole mansplaining thing, but like even the dudes to each other, where it's just this
Yes.
whole Hollywood mentality of everyone's like they all
Think that
mine's
they're
the
right.
only opinion that matters.
You want to say poor Bob because of the way the women are controlling him and they're taking over, but then because he's cheating on his wife, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
And
it's
poor
poor wife.
Harriet,
Yeah.
we see Harriet, the conversation that he has with her where he's saying, you know, this is what Jack wants me to do, and she's saying, you know, gossip is hurtful. I heard that you've been hooking up with little strudel Gretchen.
Right.
Whether it's true or not, it hurts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't start hurting other people just to hurt other people. You're my husband. You're better than that, basically.
But see, another thing too, I mean, I know everyone, I don't know how you guys feel, and I know it's obviously a lot of reasons why people stay with other people, but I feel like that's another flaw within women too, with the emotion. It's like, if you're getting cheated on, please, just leave. Just leave. I know you have families.
Yeah.
In that air, tell him, boy, bye.
But remember, times were different
No,
back
of
then.
course, and that's why I
Divorce
say-
was very taboo.
Yeah.
And of
especially
course-
in the Hollywood spotlight.
And what is she gonna do? Like, she
She's
doesn't
married
have
to a
any money.
director.
She doesn't, you know,
Right.
she's
No,
got
no.
kids.
I, for sure. No, I take that all into consideration.
But you're right.
But still,
Yeah.
like,
But still.
come
It's
on
like,
now.
because I feel like that's even still to today. Like, we hear about so many different scandals where women are getting cheated on, or they're getting played, or they're getting a child happens, whether you were on a break or not.
Yep.
And it's like, come on, like, you really
You
love
know
them that
why?
much?
We were actually talking about this yesterday on another after show. We were talking about, you know, why I think a lot of people stay together and they don't want to divorce because they don't want to waste their time because they feel like they invest so much time, which is not right. I'm just
Right.
like, you need to get it together.
Because I've heard that before.
They
too.
feel like they invest so
Yeah.
much time in one relationship, and if you even think back to Harriet and Bob, like she's been together with this man, we have kids, and some people a little bit older, maybe not younger, they look at it like, damn, if I get this divorce, as a woman, it's harder as a woman because a man can get a divorce, date a 20-year-old, have a kid at 16, call it a day. A woman gets a divorce at like 50, 60, she now has to get it together, she has to go back on the dating scene, she now has to invest more time, and I think that's another reason why so many people stay, and it's also about your insecurities, because I'm like you, I'm like,
Yeah.
just break up.
I think this whole episode is just showing people
Yeah.
with their insecurities, let them control everything. Like, we see poor Harriet, even the saddest end of an episode, just ripping your heart
Yeah.
I
out.
feel so bad for her. Like, she wakes up and she doesn't turn around and she just looks like, you can tell she's giving him the side eye, like,
He
It's so
starts to
sad.
say something and then just stops.
she's like, just get out.
I think that's this whole industry is you start to say something and then you stop yourself.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's very spot on. Because it's like you really can't be your complete self. You have to kind of hide or at least water down who you actually are in order to get past whatever it is. But I mean, and that's, I don't know, that is probably the breaking point or the sad part about Hollywood is that you really aren't yourself completely. Especially as an actress, you really have to like battle so many different personalities because you just, I don't know. It's weird, and that's sad. Hollywood would do better.
I wonder if there was a real moment between Betty and Robert when she has him come over late at night, you know, her daughter leaves. And it seemed to me like it wasn't a manipulation tactic with Betty, but could it have been because she's such a good actor?
Right.
Or was there a real connection?
I think it was real because she says to him, like, I need a friend.
I think it was real too. Yeah.
I think that was real. And I think it's the first time when you see someone, not like you said, manipulating someone, and she's like, I just need a friend. Because they kind of opened up when he helped her with the daddy song, and they're having their moment.
Yeah.
And she's like, wait a minute. It's
That
like,
was a beautiful scene.
Well, that we
It
see
was.
too is at the end of that scene when she says, you know, where do you want to go to dinner? And he says, well, I'm taking my wife to dinner. Bring her.
Bring
Like,
her.
very much. This is a platonic
queen
thing.
bee.
Like, you're my friend.
Right.
Like,
Love her.
this is not I'm not trying to get with you. I need a
Right.
friend right now.
And she mentioned she trusted him. She said, I trust you. And at that moment, I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
I know.
And
And
Don't
at
let
that
your
time
fence
of the
down.
night, I just feel like anybody who invites a guest over at 2 a.m., 12 a.m.
The booty call?
Right.
yeah.
Cocktails.
That's the old school you up. Like,
Exactly. Those are booty call hours.
I feel
Yes.
like
are
every
in
hour is a booty call
2017.
hour.
You said what?
Every hour is a booty call hour.
Oh.
Any time of the day.
Any time of the day. But you're absolutely, someone's calling you and you're calling this man and his wife is picking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like,
man.
but is it bad that I actually like the part when Joan Crawford, like her boyfriend walks back in and he has no idea what's happening?
poor Peter. So Joan and Peter, we're getting all sorts of manipulation. Bob's coming in. That's when we get the first.
Yeah.
Mine's the only opinion that matters is
And she
to
reads
Joan
him.
put it into your performance. We see Betty's, kind
Right.
of devastated face when all the gossip and everything is happening, and
Right.
his focus is on her.
But
In the mirror scene, then she just comes out full out of the gate.
Yeah.
100% crazy.
I loved it.
Making up full-fledged story, then just smile, perfume down.
she's
Just
crazy.
wait.
She's crazy. And that poor Peter walks in like, what's happening? She's
Right,
like-
and he
she's
probably-
like, by the way, you're fired. Like, wait,
Well,
this is a
no.
relationship.
Time
that
to
she-
recast.
Literally,
I
she
love
literally
that.
reads him, and I'm like,
He's like,
Peter,
excuse me?
say something.
Yeah,
like,
your
it's
lines
funny,
are
too,
getting
because-
stale.
Yes.
Who says
Which
that?
is so funny because
Joan does.
Joan said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like,
I'm going to recast
or I'm
you.
gonna recast you. Your lines.
I'm going to use that on
and that
someone.
kind of shows how
so good.
similar these two women are too, because
Yeah.
we see Betty basically the role she throws herself into as wife and mother.
Yeah.
That she, tried to play up that didn't work out for her either. They both are just playing a part.
Yeah.
Even in their real life.
Right.
It's
It's like she treats her love life like the acting world.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just so
Yeah.
It's all
bizarre.
a game.
And same thing
Everything
Betty
is a
did.
game.
Their profession was so much to them, and it was so important that they cared that much where they were willing to get rid of this one to get a new husband. That's what when Joan says to Hedda, she's like, where am I going to find a rich man to take care of me now?
Right.
And because these two women were bosses. That's how I looked at it. And I think to them, because like Hedda said, like, it's sad because we need the men, and Joan's like, I need a man. And Hedda's like, you never needed a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never needed a man. Like,
And
you,
I love that you bring that up too, because then we find out that Joan is in debt.
Yeah.
And that this is like her super last minute, and this is her last appeal finally to another woman as a friend. She even says, basically put down the sword, like turn off your recorder.
Yeah, off record.
Yeah, put down the pen, which we know in this town is the sword.
It is the story. I think she was being real, but then I think she was manipulating.
She was
it.
playing.
yes,
She was
a
playing
little
too.
bit.
I think it was until she was like just a few more years that I was like, there it
Yeah,
is.
Yeah.
right.
There's Joan.
How can you
There it is.
benefit me?
She
It's always
manipulated her because she wanted her to say at least something bad about Betty Davis and how she get her
Yes.
career back. I was like, oh, there goes Joan.
But when Hedda said, "Oh, well, she's never been one of us," I'm just
Yeah,
like,
what
but
is
so
that?
like you can't sit with us. I'm like, get out of here, Regina George.
So
It's
what did
just-
Hedda have on her, because then she comes back and says, well, how about I give you 5 more years? And then brings up the Oscar talk.
Yeah, she's like, because I've had this story since 1946, and my Dutch was ready to get it. And I'm like, girl,
Calm
it's
down.
so shady how like all the relationships are. And Hedda was like upset because the other magazine, Luelle, her arch enemy. How can you do this to me? They're so dramatic. I
Luella
love
Parsons.
It
How
is
could
so
you
dramatic.
give Luella Parsons
Right.
the exclusive in the Examiner?
Yeah.
I did it to get your attention.
right. And then
I knew
Mama
you wouldn't
Sita-
listen to me
That was
otherwise.
probably like the only other paper.
Yeah,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's like 2
Yeah.
outlets.
Well, the only other like tabloid. at least.
tabloid.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's what everybody went to. It's what
Yeah.
all of the general public went to for everything, for their fashion advice, for
Yeah.
So kids back before Perez Hilton and after Buzz and all
the
that,
shade
there were
rooms.
like these paper things. They were stacked, and there was
Right.
news in them, and there were tabloids.
I think it's called a newspaper. I don't know if you guys know what that
Right.
is.
Print was a thing. Right.
Before
It's
the
a big
internet.
thing.
Right.
Show
But
up
it's
on your
crazy.
doorstep.
But I'm not gonna lie, the social media is like, because I just imagine like how this would be if social media existed back then. Oh my gosh.
the Twitter
Yeah.
battle that would ensue
feud.
between Betty and
the
Joan.
Twitter battle.
Can we just make this be a thing?
Can we make a, can we
I
make
feel
a
like
handle?
I think that we need. I think we just created something
we
right
did.
now.
We're gonna make a handle for Joan.
We're gonna
Betty,
make
and
fake.
just-
We gotta make
Yeah.
fake
And
Facebook
just
You
pages.
play
yeah.
Betty.
I'll do Betty.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm Joan.
Okay.
Right.
Going back and forth with you.
We're gonna make
They would be
pages.
so petty on social media.
They would.
We'll be your
Love it.
writers.
Yes.
I love it.
We'll be your
That's so
headers.
funny.
Oh,
crazy.
Hedda.
Yeah, just
How about that fashion?
yes.
The yellow, the canary yellow.
I love it. I love the 60s. Like,
Yeah.
in the 50s, the hats, the clothes, the cars.
Because everything was big,
Everything.
everything was flamboyant,
fabulous.
everything was, the most
Yeah.
extreme that it could be.
It was.
We even see when Jack is talking about these women and he's comparing them to Napoleon, and he's like, that's war. So's this.
Yeah.
It's like
Jack.
everything is to the most extreme, down to what they're wearing, down to their hats.
Yeah.
crazy?
But see, people used to dress to the T. I mean, like, it really reminds me, like, if I go to church, like, at least in the Midwestern area, Southern area, it's like you dress to kill. You
Yeah,
dress for
right.
the Lord. Like, that is. And
yeah.
so when I saw, like we had talked about too, like, the 60s, that era was just, they were
One of my
beat.
favorites.
Amazing. Like, and they never walked outside looking just like anything, like, it was, and if they didn't have their hair done, like, there was a nice little scarf, their sunglasses.
Yeah.
And like I just love too how Hedda would just bust in, and Joan is always getting pampered
Yeah.
at some point.
Yes.
And I'm just like, girl, can I be you?
Spin.
Please.
What's with the witch hazel and her obsession?
Well, I think because I know like witch hazel's kind of used to like cast out
Okay.
bad energy, so she's probably just that's.
But it's actually also
Like
used
really good for your skin.
It's for
and
your
stuff,
skin.
too.
Yeah.
When I
Right.
was little, like if you had pink eye, my grandmother used to actually take witch hazel and it's for your eye. They
Really?
said, yeah, it's
know
witch
that.
hazel mixed with I forgot what it was, and you just take a cotton ball. If you have pink eye or any infection, it works for your eye.
Did not
Old
know
grandma
that.
remedies.
Yeah, I saw it on the table
Yeah, she
with the
would-
masseuse.
She would
a
literally
bottle of witch hazel.
take
Oh.
witch hazel and put it on her face with ice, and they said that was a real thing that she did.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I did not know that.
Another quote, I love Betty Davis, and like you said, this episode was just full of great quotes. One of my favorite quotes is when Betty and Joan are getting into it, and Betty says, "I'm not into vanity, I'm not into gossip, I'm here to work."
Okay.
And
I
that's why I
love
always say
that.
Betty
Yes.
Davis to me is one of the greatest actresses because she wasn't traditionally beautiful, and she wasn't like the Joan Crawford who got to sleep with these guys and got these roles. Betty Davis was like a true actress, and so was Joan Crawford, but Betty Davis wasn't into any of that. So that's one of
But
my
that's
favorite quotes.
almost what made it even more heartbreaking when she's talking to Bob and she said, what was it all for? The work, my one true love, and now that's about to leave me too.
That was so sad.
You're like, oh, rip your heart out. You almost kind of forgive that she then jumps on a married man.
Yeah.
See, and I thought that was kind of planned too a little bit. Like I think it was genuine, but I felt like it was like, yes, it's genuine, but I could probably get something out of this.
But sleeping with a director
Yeah, I
might
mean,
give me that Oscar nom
it
over
worked for
Joan,
Joan.
and
Okay.
It did.
So it's like just
She got the
Just
Oscar
saying.
nomination. Just because he says her, he's like, oh no, you are. He's like, trust me, you will get an Oscar nomination. And then I'm like, wait a minute, she really did.
Yeah.
She won the Oscar. Did Bob have anything to do with this?
yeah.
I felt like back then everyone was sleeping with each other.
Oh
married.
yeah,
That was just like the
so
thing.
that's like still 2017 too.
Like, it was like the thing, like either you looked fabulous and you slept with someone's husband and you called it a day and you went about your business, you had a new boyfriend, and that was it.
yeah.
That's when
Nicki
Olivia and Joan Blundell are talking, and they're talking about just the parallels between then and now, and is it any different now? You're like, I mean, that's
No.
kind of, I think, the point of this whole show. I feel like Ryan Murphy is like, I am hitting this on the head.
Right,
I am
right.
spelling it out to you
Right.
guys.
Message.
This was a long time ago. it's still
Still
like
happen.
that.
right.
Let's change
Such an artist.
Right.
He's a true artist, really.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
I just saw an interview too where he now is his 50-50 split for writers, where half of them have to be women and minorities. for
Nice.
every
See,
show.
and
I
that's
read that too.
awesome.
Which I was
Love
like, that
Ryan
is
Murphy.
awesome. And he's like, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to make sure you put it in practice. And I'm like,
Yes.
get it.
Yeah.
He's a mover and shaker.
Yeah.
That's my type of guy right there.
Yeah, and that's
Which
the-
is also probably why his shows are so good.
Hell
Because when you
yeah.
have a diverse group of people writing,
Absolutely. And that's
then
the
it
beauty.
adds a whole bunch of different ideas.
Absolutely, and I feel like that's the beauty of this generation. That, like, I'm not saying that the old generation, y'all had y'all's ways, but like y'all
had y'all's ways.
Yeah, I mean, because they did, and that's fine. Because most people during that older generation is kind of set in their ways, but this younger generation is very like, no, I love everybody. I want everyone
like
to be a part
water.
of. Yeah, we want to help everyone, and I think that's. You're starting to see that more and more, and we're starting to get movies like Get Out. We're starting to have, controversial shows like Star. Check it out on Wednesday. Like Star. And so you see like all these different stories being told, and they need to be told. So I mean, and I don't know, it's just amazing. Like Dear White People. There's so many different things that we're just so open to talking about now, and I feel like it only could have happened with this generation. So I'm very, very excited. So shout out to millennials.
And I think also what helped us is because we have the internet.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the internet,
resources
100%.
that they didn't have back
Absolutely.
then. And just imagine, like, I even think, like, because I'm a big hip-hop head and I love hip-hop. This is totally different. And we were talking about, imagine the things that would happen if they had social media, like, in the 90s alone.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that it
my
wasn't around
gosh.
because if you think about it, like, this was the past anniversary of Biggie Smalls dying. That's what I'm just like, just think about. So they didn't have those resources in the 60s and the 50s. And maybe I'm hoping that if they did, maybe they could have even with Joan and Betty come together and do
Well, we
big
see
things.
these ladies saying we didn't know that
Right.
these men were doing these things behind our back until way later.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
didn't know what all was happening. When you have the internet thrown in, you have
Yes.
social media, and you have all these
And
other
there's-
things, it's a little
Yeah.
bit more transparent.
And back then, and even now, we have all these amazing women directors, people
Yes.
of color, different sexualities. Where back then, it was just men at the top, men at Warner Brothers, MGM, and it was just men.
Yeah.
And they were, even though Joan and Betty were bosses, but if you look at interviews, people said they were super difficult just because they had a different opinion, and that sucks.
They were A-type women.
Yeah.
Really, really alpha female women, and they wanted their way. They were set in their ways, and I mean, and I feel like it's admirable because you do want women to be bosses and to say, okay, no, I'm gonna say no to this. I'm gonna walk out if you don't give me exactly what I want, but still being able to be humble enough to say, okay, let me take something, because I do feel like Betty was a lot more humble. She was very like. She would pick up Joan's scraps, and she would say, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it 10 times better. So, I mean, I do feel like women need to kind of start to, like, boss up and say, no, I'm not going to do that. Nicki Minaj did that, too. I love that Nicki Minaj is very, very women empowerment. So, that's, it's...
Ladies, let's stick together.
Yes.
Oh, I got to give a shout out to my friend Joe Dioletto, who played Sven. in the
Hey,
series.
yeah, she told me. Yeah, I was like, okay.
That's my boy Joe.
That's
Hi,
so
Joe.
awesome.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
shouting you out.
Hey.
Yeah.
That was a funny scene. She's like, no, Sven safe. He's like, I'm just here to do a massage.
Right.
Yep.
And they were both being so dramatic. I'm like, I just love, like, even the part where Joan is crying to Bob, and she's like, oh, God, she said all these mean things to me. And she, like, throws herself on him, and Betty's like, really?
Right.
Yeah.
So dramatic, but I love the drama.
Yeah, I'm here for the drama,
Shout out to your
too.
friend.
I'm all
That's
about
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love even just down to Sven. It's like they're
Sven.
fighting over everybody. Everybody's getting
Oh, yeah.
controlled
Right.
here.
It's
Do I
just
stay? Do I leave?
exhausting.
Do I, what
And I
do
was
I
just
do?
about to say that it's
is
so
exhausting.
because sometimes I just get like I'll be watching and I'm just like,
As far as Bob didn't have a heart attack because
yeah,
Oh.
oh my
But
gosh,
I loved that ending scene when the alarm goes off and he gets right back up. Like,
literally, and his wife,
Yeah.
she's turned over, but like she's giving him the eyes behind her head, like, nope.
that all
This
hit
is not
home
gonna
with
real life.
everybody.
Not
That
gonna
also
be
is
heartbreaking.
a highlight of the actual real life of the industry too. Like as soon as you think you're done, you're not,
Yeah.
and it's so tiring. So I was like, that literally like as soon as I saw that scene, I was like, well, that's my life. So like you just kind of it's like a constant. Like, I mean, and I also want to talk about that too. Aside from him cheating, because that's completely wrong. I don't like when people, like, if you're in a partnership or if you're married and someone doesn't really understand your lifestyle. That kind of doesn't. I don't know. It just kind of bothers me because, like I said, aside from the cheating, yeah, that's wrong, Bob. Don't do that. Don't cheat on your wife. But I do. It just kind of made me think about the fact that some people are in those relationships and they're in the industry and they don't have that person that's super supportive. Because in TV, you're on set for long hours, and sometimes you don't go home until 4 a.m. And so when you really have to, and this is just for anybody who is in the industry, you have to be with someone, if you're going to be with someone who really understands what you are doing.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's just such a weird industry too. Like, I love Viola Davis's speech when she's like, "This is the only profession that celebrates life, living, being a person, and so
being an artist."
Yeah, and so if you get a call at 3 a.m. from one of your performers who says, "I don't know if I can show up to work,"
you got to be ready. You
gotta
gotta never get ready. Stay ready. Period.
And if that's your partner, then you got to be like, all right, we'll do your thing.
Absolutely.
And then just have to trust that they're not going to cheat on you. And then
sleep
if
with
they
her.
do,
Okay, right, and sleep with the partner.
Trust.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of trust now going on Feud.
yeah, I know, right?
It's
It's lots of trust and lots of trust getting broken.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
For sure.
Not that I love, because you guys know I love Bette Davis, but I love that you got the chance to see her a little bit more human, because when she fights with her daughter a little bit, you kind of see her break down and the jealousy between her and BD, which I love that her name is BD. I'm like, what is it, Bette Davis Hyman?
Bette Davis Jr.
Bette Davis Jr.
Even Vanity with the children.
Yeah,
It's sad.
but you get to see a sad moment because they have this sad argument, and her daughter's like, "You're just mad, you're jealous, you can't do this, and you're just upset," and you get to see Betty like,
Oh,
what?
And she and I like that raw moment that she has with Bob, because she's like, the fact is that she's right. That's what hurts it even more, is the fact that she's actually telling the truth, because it wouldn't hurt your feelings if she was lying or if she was like just making up something to hurt your feelings. And then Bob says, "Look, I'm a B-list director," and that raw moment was just like, oh wow, like they're really just they're humbling themselves and they're being honest about what it is that's happening. But I was like, girl, I would never talk to my mom that way.
Oh my gosh, in the car when she's like, "I don't like this song," you just don't like it because you can't wear bikini anymore. I'm like
my mother would have killed me.
No, pulled over.
I would have,
Pulled over.
I would not even pulled over, just slammed on the brakes and been like, "Enjoy that brake check."
Right.
She's like, "Pack your bags, you have got to go."
She was like, "Good, because I want to. At least I won't have to deal with." I was like, "Oh, somebody get a belt."
I'm like,
I'm like, okay, enjoy Maine.
Bye, Felicia.
Then Betty feels so bad. I don't know if she's coming back. Okay.
Bye.
Right.
Yeah.
See ya.
Maine sounds great. Send me a postcard.
Wow, what a
Literally.
relationship.
I know, and
Yeah.
that sucks. I hated to see Betty go through that though, because I was like,
Because
it's
that's
your
all
baby.
she has.
That's her.
Yeah.
all she has.
And then and it's like you see your entire image in your daughter, and it's like you're probably looking at a mirror image of yourself, like telling yourself off. Like that's crazy. I was like, girl, Betty, you should have gotten that ass. Because I was so mad. I was like, how could you talk to your mom like
Bette
that? Like,
Davis Jr.
Yeah, and I mean, very, very true, because that energy that she probably has is coming off onto her, which I agree. Like her daughter's probably just so tired, like she's just sick of it, and she's just trying to live this normal life, and she can't because her mom is taking her out of scenes or saying, "Oh, you can't talk to these people." Like, I get it, but still, that's your mom.
Yeah.
So let's keep that.
Well, you think even when she says, "Mom, when we were growing up, all I heard was, well, this lady's past her prime and this other actress needs to be out." And so then you think about, well, what else did you hear that was all based on your appearance and your self-worth being a reflection of how you look on camera?
Yeah.
And if you're, it's
she was
like,
probably used as a prop. Because a lot of because a lot of parents probably do use their kids like, look at my children going to college. She's in the Ivy League. She's doing this, and that still happens to this day with parents, and that's unfortunate. Like, I mean, and I don't know if anybody was like those pageant kids. I feel like that happens a lot with pageant kids, where they're constantly having to be perfect, and they don't really get to have like a normal life. So I feel like but that's probably what BD's experience was. She's constantly having to be like A+, and if she ever does anything that's underneath it, or if it contradicts with what her mom feels, it just is like a no.
To be the kids of Joan Crawford and Bette Davis has to be exhausting. To be the lover of Joan Crawford and Bette Davis
Peter's so
to
sick.
be exhausting.
Poor Peter.
I mean, someone did write a book, and it was a movie called Mommy Dearest.
Okay.
I'm just saying. it's no shade to Joan Crawford, but it just has to be exhausting, and that's why I look at Bob and I'm like, he's an amazing director, but God bless him.
Yeah.
And I love how Jack is the puppeteer and he's making Bob do all the dirty work, and I'm shocked that Bob has not had a heart attack yet dealing with these two women.
Yeah.
And
He's fine.
speaking of Mommy Dearest, the next episode is going to revolve around that.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Wire hangers. I'm no wire hangers. I was like, this girl is crazy.
Like,
She's-
oh, Joni.
Like Joni.
I love that. I
I'm
love
so
that nickname.
excited. I love
That nickname's
just
so cute.
her amazing insanity.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love them. I love their personalities. I love how crazy and
The
dramatic and over the top
emotional
they are.
rage.
I love it. I love how
Yeah.
they storm into an office, storm on set, storm in the middle of a scene. I just love how they
Yeah,
They
take
roll
action.
up on set.
they're
Yeah,
like,
but-
listen.
yeah, and I love that scene how they made it a parallel for both of them. Like they both rolled into their like after they heard the
Yeah.
news about them. I was like, y'all
So
just some
pretty.
G's. Yeah, they
Just
are.
happy that this is the first like season of Feud. I
it's
love
Yeah,
perfect.
It's like what
It's
next?
perfect.
What more do we have to see? Yeah,
love it. It was
Yeah.
amazing. I love this episode tonight.
yeah. This was definitely. I mean, Feud was starting off with them was perfect. It was perfect.
So, favorite episode of the night? I mean, or favorite scene of the episode? What would you guys say?
Ooh, my favorite scene. You just threw that one out there.
I'm like, let me go look back at my notes.
I would, you know what? I will say, because it stuck out to me the most, the raw moment between Betty and Bob. Because I like the fact that they were being, like, that's hard to do when you're an A-list celebrity and you are being told off by your daughter and you're having to tell yourself that you're a B-list celebrity. That's humbling. And so, I mean, and I'm all about having those experiences where it's like, take your personality, take your vanity, take your ego down just a little bit. And when you have those like very raw moments, you learn a lot about yourself, and maybe you can grow from that. So, I mean, I think that was, you know, a very touching. I'm sorry, I'm being super Midwestern emotional, but like that stuck out for me. So yeah.
My favorite scene would have to be, it's the beginning scene with Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. They come together, and Betty Davis is walking out, and Bob's like, where are you going? It's your scene. And she's like, I'm going home sick. I'm sick to my stomach. You make me want to vomit. And I love that she like manipulates him, and then she gives him a moment to think, and she's like, oh, I forgot my bag. Like, I know you're going to
Give a minute.
You're
Just
going to
give
give it a minute. I know
yeah.
you're going to find that girl. She's like, oh, I forgot my bag. You did not. So that's one of my favorite scenes.
Drama, you the drama.
I just love Betty Davis commanding the screen, and that's my favorite part.
I like when Joan got busted and Peter comes home from Palm Springs
That was
and
a
she's
good one.
just like, oh hell.
That's amazing.
Then
Just
reads
brought down
him
the
his
house.
rights
Yeah,
for
I'm
no
recasting
reason.
you.
Recast that poor
Bye.
man who
I'm
did
gonna
not
start
even
saying
know.
And tells him to leave that night. And
Yeah.
the way he just sits on the bed and then that shot, it's just like, oh.
He's like, it's a
my-
relief.
Right. That's all he could say, because he probably was stuck like.
Where am I going?
Yeah,
at this
where
time?
the hell is he
From
gonna go?
Palm Springs, the road was flooded. What?
And she said to him like, "What are you doing here? I thought you were in Palm Springs. What are you doing here with Bob?"
Right.
Like, didn't even ask that, but he probably had a whole nother girl, another
man.
woman.
Oh, yeah. Who knows?
Hollywood in the 60s. That's at another man.
So many triangles.
So many things happening.
So many things happening.
I was like, well,
Did you have a favorite
Exhausting.
scene?
It was hard to pick one. I think probably the mirror scene, though, where they're with Bob and Betty in front of the mirror when she's finally kind of letting her vulnerability show. And we see him, like, really directing her and them kind of bringing out the best in each other.
yeah.
I did
in
love
a
that.
platonic, not begging each other when they're married kind of way.
yeah.
That was a nice
beautiful.
moment.
That was a nice moment. We all had a great. I was like, okay,
That was nice.
everybody
This was
wrote
a
down
nice
their.
moment as well.
That's right.
How we come together, ladies.
Women.
See what happens?
Right. We actually hate each other off screen.
Yeah.
Right.
The
That was
second
it.
we were out, we're like,
I'm calling that out.
Right. I'm leaving.
your scene was stupid.
Right. But laughing, but serious. No. That's so funny. But no.
Well, I absolutely love you guys. I love hanging out with you
Yes,
here,
girl.
and I'm sure the fans would love to hang out with you in between too. So where can we find more from you guys?
Well, you can find me on all social media at Raquel Harris TV.
I am Nakia Monet. You can find me at Kiki Boom Boom on all social medias, and then on Sundays I'm on Girls.
Awesome. Well, I'm Lisa Mason Lee, and you can find me everywhere at Lisa Mason Lee.
I'm Elena Jordan. You can find me on Twitter at Elena Jordan and on Instagram at That Elena Jordan Girl. You can find us all back here next week, and you can find us all at BHL Online as well. So we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
From executives Kevin Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.